Well, all right, folks, welcome back to the Active Self-Protection Podcast. I am yet again your host, Mike Williver, and you've heard this already, but it bears repeating. I am your favorite former Fed.
Mountain Man Medical has name brand proven trauma medical supplies with a price match guarantee to ensure you get the right gear at the right price. Check them out at get-asp.com/mountainman.
And back with us is John. His story had so many details that I thought, and I think he would agree, are interesting and useful, that we decided to cut this into two parts. I won't be doing this often, so if you have comments for me about how you hate two-part episodes, I mean, type them if you want, but this isn't going to be a regular thing. It's just that John's story is so detailed and there's so much in it that I wanted to make sure we give all the parts of the story the credit and the important significance that they're due. So, John, welcome back. Thank you, sir, for coming back. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on again.
So people, if you're not sure, if we really hung up the phone and called back another day, yes, we're wearing different shirts. I'm wearing my black comfy shirt. I don't know, John's wearing some sort of polo. So it is a different day, and it's Friday. So we need to get this interview done so I can go eat pizza. All right. So, John, why don't you tell us where we were? I have a rough idea. You had been pretty brutally assaulted, and you're now on the floor of an apartment home that you're not all that familiar with, and all of a sudden the police show up, and kind of walk us through what happened at that point.
Sure. At this time, the police were securing the scene, and the second set of officers came in, and one of the officers saw that I was so badly attacked and had seen this before because he served overseas in Iraq, and knew instantly he had to come and protect my head, as I was already doing, but he knew that he had to put more pressure on it than I was to help save my life here at this moment. And this is when he slid to me, I realized something was serious, like even more so than before, which is, I think, is very interesting to note now. And he just kept talking to me during this whole entire time and kept, making sure that I was with him and I could somewhat make him out a little bit, but my eyes were pretty bloodshot at this time because I was bleeding pretty, I wouldn't say profusely, but at a steady flow rate from the top of my head.
So let me just reemphasize something you said there. And I don't remember, frankly, if you said this during our last episode or not, but you mentioned this today, at least before we hit the record button, and then just now you said he slid to you. Explain exactly what that means, because I know you told me what it means, but why would he slide to you? What was he doing?
I asked him this actually after this all happened, because I actually met him later on, and he said it was just the fastest reaction that he could do, and he could only think of doing a baseball slide to me. And in the last one, I actually did mention about how I wasn't sure if he was going to run into me the way he was sliding, because I could see something coming at me. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing? What I didn't know is he's trying to make the fastest maneuver to get to me in the fastest time. And if you think about it, a slide can be a nice controlled maneuver, like in baseball and everything, and can help you get there in a efficient time. And so
we're not talking about a janky rookie NFL quarterback slide where they sort of fall over themselves. He practiced this before, maybe former baseball player.
That one I don't honestly know, but it sounds like he's done it before, right, based on everything. And
we think he's a combat vet, right?
He was a combat veteran. That's correct. He served for 6 years. Yeah.
It makes sense why he would walk in and assess looking at you and be like, okay, I know at least a little bit about this, and I know that I need to protect this guy's head. Because at this point, I mean, once your skull's cracked, part of your brain's exposed, the skull's there for a reason. It's the hardest bone in your body for a reason. It's protecting your brain. And once that has been compromised, the slightest bit of pressure, the wrong move, can have very grave consequences. So my question to you is, how did you realize I have this serious injury? Was it just sort of your body just said, cover this up, put your hands here and cover it up? Like, what was going through your head? Or were you able to think anything?
Honestly, I mean, in the moment, I just knew I had to protect myself, and knew that I was bleeding from the top of my head. I know a little bit about medical stuff because both my sisters are nurses, and so I hear these stories all the time. And a matter of fact, my one sister was a ICU nurse and a med surg nurse, so I heard about head injuries a lot from her.
Okay.
Hanging around her friends and everything, and so I knew I'm bleeding from the top of my head. I don't know where. I don't know, I knew it was a fast rate, and I knew that in the instinct. And I think about this now. It's amazing that I had all this insight to be able to think that I need to put something on the top of my head, and I had a towel on my head at the time, and then put pressure on it to stop the bleeding. And if I could, like, I mean, you can revert the blood flow too. Like, I mean, I know this all now. I mean, this is all the stuff we know about it. And I sit here and I'm like, yet I knew I shouldn't move either. So, like, it's a toss here on what to do. And uh, this time is when, like I said, the officer is there. He's putting pressure on my head. The other officer that was with him split off to go help, assisted the first two officers that came in to secure the scene. They secured the scene, and then he went into his top walkie and literally told them that we need EMS here sooner than later. What he didn't want to say is that we need him now, like right now, to save this guy's life. But
Note to defenders, note to people who show up and stuff like this, whether you're a cop or a paramedic or just a private citizen who has that drive to help other people. This is a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because what you don't want to do as the person on scene is be like, oh no, this guy is probably going to die in 38 seconds or whatever. Like, you need to keep it as upbeat as you can and keep the person awake, preferably, especially with a head injury.
Yes.
Don't move them unless you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you know that you don't know what you're doing, so don't do anything. And
Right.
try to find something positive to say. Hey, stay with me. What's your name? Get a name if you can. So was he able to do all that pretty successfully? I'm guessing he was.
Oh yes, yeah. He was asking name, keeping me talking, asking, are you, how do you feel? Because he's trying to assess the situation so that he can relay all the information to dispatch, so that can be relayed to, the paramedics, for they know what they're getting into,
Were there
and so how
any
they
other
can
injuries
assess it.
aside from the head injury?
Oh yeah. There was, and we didn't get into that in the last part, but I knew we would in this part, is that he continued to take that blunt side and beat me down the side of my back all the way down to, my, on the one side of my leg that I was exposed when I was in the fetal position, and took it all the way down to the heel of my foot.
That's really odd behavior after hitting you in the head. Normally, somebody
Yes.
would hit someone in the head and call it a day.
No, I mean, he definitely had a clear motive, like you said in the first part, that there was definitely a clear motive
No, for
here,
sure. Was he? Was
and
he?
he did not like
At this
me,
point, he's
and he
hitting you
did
now.
not
So we're
want
kind of
me
backtracking a little
around.
bit. At the
And
point at which he
it was
is,
very interesting that he went into this whole mode where he decided that he was going to take me out and beat me and punish me for being there.
right.
Is a very unique thing, and it goes back to what you said, is this is a premeditated thing.
Right. So for those who are watching, I'm sorry, our feed just went out for a moment early. So in the end result, we might both be talking at the same time, and I apologize for that. I never claimed to be a professional broadcaster. So now, fast forward back to when the police are, they show up, and this officer is tending to you. He's trying to keep you awake and everything else. If you had to guess, I mean, I'm sure it's not easy to gauge time during something like this, but if you had to guess, how long did it take from them getting there to you actually getting medical attention from an EMT and getting into an ambulance?